Stop overrides. This is one of the most confusing and challenging aspects of DRO. When you do a stop override, the point of this is to tell the system that this address goes on this truck in this place every day, regardless of the plan and regardless of what surrounds it. So if you notice, I have a couple of them in here set for delivery. However, the problem that we run into a lot of times is the map will then change the sequencing to surround everything in this area to be on the floor because I want this stop as a floor stop. Anything else that surrounds it will then be assigned to the floor, which as we know can cause a problem because if it's a lot of smalls, which in this case this is more of a medical area, so there's a lot of mom and pop medical shops, there's a lot of independent doctors, so they're not getting big shipments every day, they're getting a lot of envelopes, and the floor we like to use for our ICs and our bulk stops, or even in some cases staging areas. By having anything assigned to the floor, and with the system assigning it to correspond with the general area, it does add a lot of your smalls to the floor. It does assign a lot of weird pockets to floor segments that should be on the shelf. So you end up going back to some of these areas if you don't see them because the floor doesn't take into account the 1,000, 2,000, 6,000, 8,000. Unless you have something assigned to there, so it will designate the entire floor. So you would have, say, 1973 1,000 floor, but then 1983, which is right next door to Sloan Place, will be very back in the 6,000 floor section. So this part is very tricky, and this is one of those segments that you have to do every day. Because as you will see as I add one, you don't have the ability yet to pick and choose the addresses. You can only use the addresses that the system says is adequate enough to be considered an override and need that special assignment. So in order to add them, obviously you go into your stop override tab, you click the add. Now you have to do it by zip code. So let's go into the 112s because I want to bring up a second point when adding overrides. So as of right now, these are the only addresses that DRO is saying can qualify to be an override. Some of these are businesses, but all of these, actually down to even here, these are residentials. So my residential is obviously I want on the floor and I want to keep my businesses to some of my dock stops. This area is really heavy with business and a lot of docks. So I want to keep my stuff on the floor to make it kind of out of the way, get a little bit emptier quicker, what have you. But it does not give me the option of picking and choosing an address. So for example, I want to use, what's a bigger stop? $601. Grimco is on there. Okay, I can't use that one. 7-Eleven. So National Marrow, 7-Eleven 5th Avenue. I want to add this into my stop override. I can't yet because the system says that it is not a candidate. So therefore, it will just assign it where it needs to go. The other problem with this is your pickups. If you have one driver do the pickups in the territory, but the other driver does the deliveries in the area, it will automatically assign the pickups to the driver that does the delivery. So it does not want you to keep crossing borders, and it does not want it to be ran that way. So in that instance, you have to go into FCC every day, move the pickups accordingly, assign them to the proper territories. There is a way to make that happen in the stop overrides, but it has to be done with the terminal staff, because the other key on this, especially with stops that you are going to in the morning and delivering to, and you also have a daily pickup there, if you have Target, Walmart, or Walgreens, any of those where they have the only while you deliver, or they have the wide open windows, typically Walgreens does, where it's an 8 to 6 or an 8 to 8, those you can put into this stop override, so that way it has you do the pickup while you do the delivery. However, if you want to add your deliveries and your pickups in here for your stop override so you can assign them properly, it will not work until the system gets its map update. But there is a way to do it. So, for example, let me bring up one of those. Just Target. So 975 County Road E is Target in Vadnais Heights. Stop type I have set as both. First stop, last stop, no preference on this. Section, I didn't put a section in here because it's not typically big enough for the delivery for us to want it to go out the back, what have you. For the most part, it does usually start in this area anyways because it's the closest from the terminal. So it doesn't really stem an issue. But just so I could add one and show you. So as I go into my 55127 and look at the candidates, these are actually all residentials. There is no business on here at all. So that's another one of the problems that we run into. And this is why I said that it's an ongoing issue, and it does stem a lot of problem. Because the system spent more time focusing on their route planning and the anchor areas than they did doing the stop overrides. So this is coming. There are updates, but as of right now, June 2020, it is very finicky, and it picks and chooses what it wants to do. So here's one. I believe I already have this as a stop override. It will tell me if that's the case, but I'm going to go ahead and add this. So stop order, NA. I could do my first stop, my last stop. This one comes up. There is a scheduled pickup at 444. So I'm going to go ahead and do a pickup while deliver. Route type. So your route type, you can set them up as bulk or your large package. I'm not sure for those who have large package hubs in their district, this will come in handy once those roll out, or if you are running them already. And then your bulk stops and your bulk routes do take into account if you are running straight trucks. So if you are putting this on a straight truck and you're trying to organize the straight as best as possible, you can go ahead and use the bulk tab for this, and it knows to kind of group together the entire address, and it makes it a little bit cleaner. I don't have any straight trucks anymore, so I don't use any of these tabs. But when you go under route name, this is the route that's going to be assigned to it. So I already know just off of experience, this is GAML 21. No preference on here. Load section. This is where you can go in and you can choose where you want it to go. So 7,000, it can either be the floor or no preference. So if you hit no preference, it's just going to assign 444 Centerville to this route every day. That is also covered by the anchor area. So if this address, which it is, it's circled in one of my anchor areas, I don't need to add this address into a stop override unless I wanted it to be in the back every day or unless I wanted it to be on the floor. In this case, the driver wants it on his 7,000 shelf. So then I can automatically assign it to the 7,000 shelf. So it'll be on the 7,000 shelf on Gamel 21 every day. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it. Now, in order to enact these, you're going to go back into your route plans. Today is Thursday, so I will be working with my Friday plan. I can go ahead, hit edit, and I don't have any that I'm actually using. Oh, they're still in here. But I will go ahead and... Oh, it's on top. So you're going to go into your stop overrides, and under here, there are a handful that I am using. You'll be able to click and turn off the ones that you want to use and that you don't want to use. So for example, Anderson Manufacturing, this driver wants it on his back and his floor, kind of in the back corner every day. So this one's turned on. This one is pretty accurate. But you can kind of tell when addresses start to come in as multiple names, as a lot of them do. You'll get businesses that just use suite numbers, use business name, personal name. Once the system is updated, you will be able to go in and have all of them turned on. So that way it doesn't jump around. But as you know, that was a very common error with the VSA. So I don't foresee that being fixed here anytime in the near future for DRO, because it has been an ongoing issue for many years, not just a couple of weeks or a couple of months that this system has rolled out. So that's the quick rundown on the... So just trying to get back to it on the stop overrides. I will come out with a better video on this. I'm sorry if it's a little bit jumbled, but like I said, this one is one of the hardest ones to explain, and it's the hardest one to maintain because it doesn't work. A lot of the problems that my guys are having and a lot of the stuff that is being passed around the belt is due to the fact that I have these overrides on, even if they're assigned to the right route. The system, if it does change the name at all, if someone doesn't put a space between a business name or if there's a personal name, it will jump around and assign itself to the anchor areas. So I took that and went one step further. And for a lot of those trouble spots, you'll see when I was covering in the anchor areas, I went ahead and I just made the trouble territories that weren't assigning properly, regardless if they were in override or not. I put them as... Hold on, let it load a second. Where's it going? I don't have them turned on. Kicked me out. I made them into their own anchor area and I circled the entire section, and that's when I went through and I labeled them as the business area like I showed in the anchor area video, where one says Walmart area, one says Target area, and that has actually been very helpful, more so than actually assigning them as a stop override. So if there's any other questions, especially with this tab, don't hesitate to reach out to me for email. I'd love to be able to talk about it more individually, because this is kind of more of a case-by-case basis, because it is something that is going to be an issue until it's addressed further with the developers. So that's what I got. Hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe.